Let's cross now to James Vasina from our sports desk, who is on the River Seine. After a very busy day, he's been moving around all sports venues across the French capital. We'll be talking about your current location, James, later on. But first, there's 1 year to go now. Have you already been getting a sense of excitement on your travels across the French capital?
Oh, Selena, a sense of excitement. It's a lot to say. I hate to start this show with what's going to be such a special edition of the Olympic Games on a bit of a downer, but it's hard to say that, the city is ready and, there's really that fever going on there. It's not quite there yet. Around Paris, you can see a few logos, there are a few posters around there's a few descriptions of what's going to be going on. But to say there's an actual fever for the Olympics yet, it's not quite that. There's been a lot of talk about the Olympics, obviously with a year to come before that. And the biggest, let's say, step that's been taken has been yesterday. They set up a countdown on the Eiffel Tower that you can now see just behind me. A countdown with, and obviously, a year to go before that. That's been the biggest development so far, because apart from that, there's been a lot of talk, of course, about the Olympics, for the good and the more difficult sides about it. And, of course, one of the big issues in France has been the ticket sales. Yes, there were a lot of cheap tickets, but people who won't be able to buy those, well, they ended up having to face either with buying or not buying very, very expensive tickets. And that caused a lot of talk. And a lot of people ended up saying, well, look, I'm not going to pay that kind of amount of money to go and watch the games, and I'd rather just watch it from my sofa on the television at home. So that's been a lot of the talk. There's still a lot of hyping up to do for Paris. And the thing is, Paris, as you mentioned there, has a lot of potential for it, because it's going to be taking place all around the city. We're going up through this boat, we're going to see some of the locations, and we're going to talk about that throughout the show. But a lot of these locations within Paris are so iconic and beautiful. A lot of tourists go there, but also people who live here spend some time around there in their everyday lives. And they have the potential to really advertise it and really put the message forward that those games are there to come in a year's time. So let's see how things go over the year to come. But for now, there's still quite a bit of work to do on that side.
And on that note, James, obviously there's a year to go now, and preparations are still really full underway. The big question is, of course, do you think Paris will be ready on time?
Well, look, we've been going around Paris and around the suburbs since this morning, and from a lot of the sites that we've seen, things do seem to be going pretty well. Now, some of the sites, as we mentioned, are very iconic historical places, so they're actually already built. Places like Versailles, the castle, the Chateau de Versailles, into the west of Paris, where the equestrian sports, the events will be taking place. Well, that place is ready. There's the castle's there. It's been there for several hundreds of years. It's been the home for several kings. So they're only going to have to make a few installations over there throughout the rest of the year, and that is going to be ready, we're told, by the organisers over there before the end of the year. So that seems all right. We've been to Roland Garros, where the French Open takes place, and where the tennis events will be taking place. There's a new retractable roof being built on one of the courts over there. That's about it, because Roland Garros has been renovated, but then there's still a lot of work to be done more to the north of Paris. The north of Paris, where there's more the suburbs, where the Stade de France is, which is where all those, all the international friendlies, international games, whether it's football or rugby, are held, and that's where the athletics will be held, of course. There's quite a lot of work to be done around there. That's where the Olympic Village will be held as well. And the talk, of course, is what's going to be happening for the Parisians themselves and the people who live in the suburbs after the Olympics. As is always the question, we're going to be looking through that very, very, very carefully over the next year. Just to give you an example of how things are going, there's a new aquatic centre that's being set up next to the Stade de France, so to the north of Paris, and that's going to be bringing something for the people around there, because the statistic is that around the age of 11 to 12, only about half of the children of that area can actually swim. So the aim is going to bring more facilities for them, to encourage them to swim, to encourage them to take up more sports. So that's the aim, and that's going to be obviously the legacy, and what a lot of people here in Paris, and we're going to talk about this later on throughout the show, want to see. Real concrete results for them as well, not just for the weeks when the Olympics and the Paralympics are held.
Indeed, the hope is for a long-lasting legacy for the Games. Thank you, James, for now, and stay on 2 feet there as you're moving across the River Seine. We'll be crossing to you again later on.